everyone, and welcome back. As you can see, I have a ginormous amount of fabric pattern papers down. The time has come finally for me to sew the outfit that I'll be wearing to my daughter's wedding. So I've chosen McCall's 0536, and they're like a wide-legged pant. I'm going to be doing this version right here in a gauze, sort of a champagne colored gauze, and the top part of that outfit will be the New Look 6558. I'm making option C and option D out of what is termed a embellished crushed velvet. This is in no way crushed velvet. It is more like a crepe fabric. I purchased it on Amazon, and it is actually going to work better than I actually had thought initially. So my plan is to have my top and my jacket in matching fabric, and that way it's a March wedding. It has been an especially cold first part of the year 2019. So I kind of wanted to have something that was at least going to keep me somewhat warm, as part of the actual ceremony will be on an outdoor half of the venue, while the reception and the food and the dancing and all the merriment will be inside. So I kind of needed it to be useful to wear in a warm-ish environment as well as a cool-ish environment. And these two pieces together will kind of have a nice impact, I think. That is what I'm going to make, and that is what I am going to wear. It's a very glitzy, glamour wedding. Fortunately, it has been probably one of the easiest. I mean, the ones that I've actually been involved in have been very, very, very easy. But I'm doing a whole lot. I'm basically in charge of the dessert table. So I've been working on the items for that. And now it has come. My fabric has arrived, and I'm ready to start working on this outfit. I basically have about 21 days to get this done, and I thought I would share it with you. So I've almost cut out all of my pattern pieces for the top part, the 6558. This is the sleeve for the jacket. I'm not going to be using that at the moment. And I was looking for this piece number 3, and I finally located it. This is the slacks part of that pattern. So I'm putting it in a Ziploc bag. I'm not going to be using this, so I just don't want to get it confused with the pieces that I do actually need. So I need the bodice front one. Got that one cut out. And then I found piece 3 here. So I'm going to cut this out. I don't know if you've ever had experience with cutting out a pattern on this type of pattern paper. It can be a challenge, and it can be very simple. I do not use my fabric scissors for cutting out patterns. I've just made it a habit to never, ever, ever, ever use my fabric scissors to cut out anything that is not fabric. And sometimes fabric, even if it has a lot of plastic, I have a different pair of scissors, for example, for when I need to cut out something with like a fabric made from fleece. I don't use my regular fabric scissors. They're primarily those scissors are saved and reserved for natural fibers. There's a few polyesters that I will, if there's a blend, that I will use. You just kind of have to use your judgment, but it will dull the blades. And, you know, there are some materials out there that won't just dull the blades, that will damage the nice sharp edge. And I personally I just can't stand trying to cut out something precisely and not being able to because the scissors are just not cooperating. And unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, being ambidextrous can be a nightmare when you're cutting. That's a whole different topic. But in case you're wondering, sometimes when I'm cutting things out, my brain thinks I'm cutting out with my left hand when I'm actually holding with my left hand, and then it just gets all kinds of confusing. Okay, so there's piece 3, and I'm not doing C, so I don't need to worry about those. I'm not doing the slacks from this pattern, so I don't need to worry about those, and that's what all of that is. The shoulder straps for C are here. This is probably the waistband for the pants. It is. Okay, so at first look, with a little bit of care, I've figured out that this large piece right here is not going to be used for this sewing go round. So I'm going to carefully fold it up. This is probably not the most conducive to sewing, but I'm doing this on a Saturday, and when somebody else is home, like my husband, I tend to get questions, and where's the bread, where, you know, can I put the dogs out? So it does a lot of interrupting to my video. So that is why I came downstairs, and I'm working down here while I do this part. Okay, so I'm going to put this in a Ziploc bag just to keep it from being part of the fray. Alright, and now I have this other piece here, and I'm going to look at this and see if I need these pieces. And one thing to keep in mind, even though a lot of patterns, almost all patterns now, are multi-sized, you will often have 2 of the same piece. One of them will be in the first 3 from the smallest to the middle size, like this is 8, 10, 12. And the next piece that matches this one will be, you know, 12, 14, 16. So you need to make sure that you're cutting out the correct size way for the piece that you need, and also the correct piece that you might need. So I'm going to trim down, I'm going to trim down this and take a glance. Alright, I don't need the back for piece C because I'm not doing a C, and I have cut out the size that I need for that piece, so I can put this one away. And I've also done the same thing with piece D, so I can put this away. And then if somebody else sees the finished product and wants to either borrow the pattern or have someone make it for them, then I have it available. I totally believe in sharing. Okay, so I know I'm using this. I'm going to set it aside. I know I am using this front facing for the jacket, so I'm going to set it aside. I am going to be using the back facing for the jacket, so I'll put it aside. And this is the back of the jacket, so it will go with the jacket piece. This is the front of, oh, is this the jacket? I believe, yes, this is the jacket. Piece front V. All these little clues that help you as you go. Okay, and then front C, piece 7, I don't need. I'm not making you see. All right, so this is the front of the top I'm making. This is the front of the top. It's two-piece top. It's got a bodice that goes across the front and the back, and then under that it has another section. Okay, I'm trying to keep everything together. This I don't need. Okay, here's the side front. So I kind of want to make sure I have everything I need. Maybe this would go like that. That's going to wrap around. This is the sleeve. Oh, and this is the back. Okay. I knew there was, this is not the jacket. This is the actual back piece of the top that we're going to review again in just a moment. While I get this stuff put away. And I don't ever throw away the, often you'll have a lot of remaining unprinted pattern paper. If you save that, if one of your pattern pieces tears, you can retrace it, or you can use it to just mend a pattern with. It's really just a good idea to hang on to that. Alright, I am going to double check. I'm not using that. Oh, this is piece D. That is this is for the jacket. Make sure it's the right size. It's not. I already cut that out. Okay. Alright. So, now what I'm doing is I'm putting all of the superfluous pattern pieces from both patterns in a Ziploc bag because I don't want them mixed up with the pattern envelope that I'm currently working with. After I've made both the slacks and the top, then I will replace all of the pattern pieces in both of the envelopes. But this just keeps me from having to, if I need to go back and reference a pattern piece in the process of constructing the garment, then I'm not going to be wading through pieces I don't need to be wading through. Okay, so I'm going to set this over here. This is my instructions, this is my pattern envelope, and these are the pieces for the first, for piece, or part A, view A, that I'm going to be making. So, what I need to do next is open up my instructions. And I'm going to see a list of the views that are included in this pattern. I'm going to see a list of the pattern pieces that are included in this pattern. These numbers will correlate to the numbers on the actual pattern pieces. And then I'm going to see the layouts, and that is where do I put these pattern pieces on this fabric to make this particular garment work. For example, this piece right here, this is the back of your your top, view B. You have to, excuse me, you have to put this on the fold along this long straight edge right here in order to get one full back. And it might be tempting to just say to yourself, okay, well, I'm just going to stick this on the fold of the fabric anywhere I can. You really should follow your pattern guide. It's going to help you, especially if your pattern or your fabric width happens to be sort of non-conventional. And if you're working, for example, with a double galon edged lace fabric, this will give you an example of how to, let's get that in there, of how to use that type of fabric and these pattern pieces. So since I'm using a plain fabric, it's not really plain since it's got the embroidery and the sequins, it is showing me how to do the layout for A and for B, not using the double-edged lace fabric. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to wear the garment as it is described in the making of this pattern. In other words, am I going to be able to put this on over my head? Does it have a zipper in the side? You know, how does this go on? How is this particular garment made and how is it functional? I don't want to make it and then not be able to put it on. So I'm going to go back to here, and down in the English portion for me, it will tell me what I'm going to need. So requirements: A, B, and C require one 12-inch zipper. So now I know that the top I am making will have a zipper installation, and I need to purchase a 12-inch zipper that will go with my fabric. I may actually not use a zipper. There are some other options. There's there's snap tape. There is a way to put in a zipper, or like a double-edged placket with a hook and eye at the top. And since I'm going to be wearing a jacket, I may do that for simplicity's sake. I might try to do just a different type of closing. These are the things that you kind of need to be thinking about when you're getting your material and you're picking out your pattern and you're thinking about what it is that you want for your top. You could also do a button front. I mean, it's simple enough to create that type of a change on the pattern. So, since I'm sort of conflicted about what I want to do with this, and I know that I'm making my jacket from the same fabric, I'm going to go ahead and put this aside and then cut out my jacket, and we'll see what kind of fabric we have left and what we're going to be doing in the long term for where your zipper or your closing is going to go in this particular top. So I'm going to fold all my pieces up that go to the top all together. And that way I will know that this is all of my pieces, and I will put them inside my envelope. And if we wanted to, we could kind of peek ahead, which isn't a bad idea, to see where that zipper is going to go in this particular top. 9, 10, I'm kind of scooting ahead, 12. Okay, so the zipper goes in the front. That's interesting. Let's take a peek at that again and see for sure. for A and B, front, back, left front opening edge, and a 1/2 inch on the left back opening edge. Oh, so it's under your arm. Yeah, so the zipper isn't even really seen. It's on one of those side seams right there. So that gives me a little bit more information about where it's going to go and how I want to finish that off. Okay, so I'm still going to need this. I'm going to get my jacket pieces. Now, normally I would cut my fabric, okay, sorry about that. So normally I would cut my fabric with the right sides together. However, this fabric has embroidery, and the embroidery includes sequins for that formal touch. I want to make sure where I'm cutting, I'm not going to create a bunch of issues for myself. Now, I might not get an option. I might have to, you know, cut right through those sequins. Okay. I didn't see this fabric get cut, so I'm thinking it was not cut straight, but because it has this crinkle to it, I want to make sure that that is straight. It's almost like having lines. They are a little random, so it's not terrible if they don't line up and aren't perfect. Okay, so let's take a look at how to cut out our jacket piece. So here we are, starting with D. And normally I would press my pattern pieces with a hot iron. I don't know if I'm going to get that option today, but it will make a difference in the fit if they're completely wrinkled. So I'm going to smooth them out with my fingers as best I can. I do recommend that you press, though. If I had the option today, I would do that. I have a bridesmaid's dress sitting on my ironing board at the moment. I'm trying to figure out how to put the belt. That's a whole different issue. And boy, if I figure it out, I'm going to do a video, and I'll tell you. I know it sounds like it's something simple. What? Put a belt on a bridesmaid's dress? You have no idea. The dress, of course, is made with this delicate, filmy fabric, and the belt is like chainmail, and I have to go into an empire waist with this heavy, fake gem that's encased in metal with little tiny metal rings around it that are not thin enough to allow anything but a beading needle to get through, and my beading needle can't get through all of the fabric on the back. So and gluing it isn't an option. So I'm working on that, and if I figure it out, I'll let you guys know what I came up with. Okay, so we're going to be using, it says right here, we're going to use piece 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So, first thing I'm going to look at is where the raw edges and the selvages are, and the fold. The fold is right here. So piece 12 is right here. And piece 12, oh, that's another thing I need to explain, maybe. So up here, you're going to have sewing instructions, and it's going to explain to you, this is the right side. It's kind of a dark shaded area. The wrong side is just basic open white, Interfacing is kind of a dotted white, and lining is a more heavily dotted example. So when you look at your layout here, you're going to see certain pieces are in that dark shaded area and certain are in the open white. And you can figure out how you're supposed to do the layout based on the shade. Normally, the patterns that I work with, oh, this is a new look pattern, okay. Normally they give you sewing instructions as well as layout, and I'm not exactly seeing right here where the colors for the layout would be. So we're going to just have to assume that this is what they mean, that the right side is the darker shaded area and the open white is the wrong side. I don't like assumptions, but we're going to have to roll with it. Okay, so, but I am, yeah. So unless I flip this way, I will just go ahead and flip it this way. This is so funny and so typical of me. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I have enough selvage at the bottom here that I can pin or clip or weight this piece down. Now it is the back of the jacket, and I really want a lot of the bling to show. So I may have to move it around to get what I want on the back. And to do that, you can actually open up your fabric and then flip your pattern piece and just cut that way. I'm actually happy with where this is, right here. And I don't see that I'm going to have too terrible of a time where there's only one spot where I'll be cutting through some embroidery. Okay, so I'm just going to line up the back of my pattern piece and pin it. I'm using very long, very long glass head pins. The reason I pin with glass head is if for some reason I do need to press while my pattern pieces are on the fabric, the head won't melt. It can withstand that high heat from the iron. I rarely even have plastic pins in my sewing room. It's been, goodness, probably maybe when I was in my 20s I used a plastic head, and then I discovered the joys of glass head pins, and I don't think I've looked back since. I do like to use a good number of pins. I want to make sure I'm not going to have slipping and sliding, and especially on a fabric of this quality and the amount of money I spent on it. I just don't want anything to go wrong. Okay, so I've got the back on there, and this is the front piece right here. Oh, excuse me, this is the front piece right here, and obviously I'm going to cut it out the same. If this is face up, this will be face up, and I'm going to be cutting 2 of this. So I'm going to slide that out of the way, keep an eye on my lining or my layout, and I'm trying to make the bottom of both pieces kind of go along where there's not a lot of embroidery, and I think that the repeat will be basically the same. So if I line these up in kind of the same the same way. I might get lucky. I don't think that it's as random as it does at first appear. I also don't want embroidery in a spot like where the sleeve is. This is a little bit heavier than this, so I might be able to take that embroidery out. Okay, so now I'm going to peek underneath. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. All right. It's just important to me that I have the glamour of the fabric where I want it, instead of letting the fabric dictate that to me. I think I'm going to turn this. I need to make sure that my green line is straight up and down, not at a slant. And it is. And as I look, I do see what I do like what I'm seeing. I'm going to peek. Oh yeah, that will be very pretty. My pin cushion is quite heavy for a reason. I like to use it as a weight. And I don't like, if I'm using it in the midst of a project, I've had my pin cushion sort of escape, or I'm not, you know, if I'm chasing after it, it's sliding around. That's happened to me before. I want it to stay put. Okay. Now there's some marking. Oops, this is a bent pin. I save them, but I don't use them in the middle of my projects. Okay. Because they're very long, they do tend to bend very easily. There's I don't remember what the gauge is, but it's extremely fine. It's like a 22 or something. Okay, so what was I going to say? Oh, markings. What I like to use when I have a project of this nature, I mean, if I were making PJs or something, it wouldn't even occur to me to mark. But this is different. Obviously, this has a dart seam right here. This also has a dart seam. Those will have to be marked. You can mark with chalk or with a type of pen, but I recommend that you try, you know, just take a piece of this